is the assumption that at our core, the values, the gratitude themes that you're speaking of, those have, wherever you want to go, religiously, spiritually, genetically, biologically, those are kind of implanted in us at birth. And it's just about tapping into those things, or are they fluid and they evolve as we go? And we have some control over even those, where we can kind of dictate the things that we value or enjoy in life. How is that? Is that a fixed thing or is that a fluid thing?
I don't think it's fixed what your values are. I think to a large extent, your values are what you believe based on your early experiences, and maybe based on something your soul might take into this incarnation. But again, I'm not going to get super philosophical about that. But I think it's important to accept that you can be fluid about what you care about, what you value, and it doesn't make what you valued last year wrong. It's just different.
Because the guiding light is, does it make you feel good? Right. That's the tell. See, where that gets, the reason I asked that question about the source of the values is sometimes we confuse what makes us feel good because our parents told us, or society told us, or we just feel like that, or we had an early childhood experience. And that gets interesting to me of like, is it okay to just base it on what makes us feel good? And that's almost a weird question to ask, because if it makes you feel good, then yes, it should. But how do you know it really is what makes you feel good versus it's what you think makes you feel good? Because sometimes that's tough to distinguish.
Again, I go back to the fact that there's no quick answer. There's no one answer. You have to keep experiencing life and make the associations, see the patterns to know that, oh, I don't want to like go out with this kind of person. These are the signs of not feeling comfortable or fully able to express myself later. Or you might see a pattern of when you take control in a certain situation, you actually turn off everybody else in the group. It might take like 10 times, or it might, you might say, oh, this is a pattern I had when I was a kid, not being chosen for the team. And it might take many, many years of experiences, but at any moment, you could look at all those things and ask yourself, is this true? Is this what I want to believe? And there's no one answer. Like, it's not that you come into being with all your values laid out. And if your parents presented their values, they're human. They have values.
Sure.
And it might be a point of pride that they instill those values in their children. That might be their motivation for having children. Somebody to give their values to, but it's not necessarily the values you have to live. So each person has to look at what their experiences are and determine if this makes sense for me. And it might not, even though it was those values, those ideas, and those beliefs were given lovingly, it might not work for everybody. And then on top of that, any person has to look at what might have worked for them when they were 20, doesn't work for them when they're 40. And they have a perfect right to re-choose.
It's the philosophical part of it is almost like, what is that choice based on? Like, right, when you have that thing and you realize, like, let's use the example you use, right? Maybe when you're a kid, you were never picked for the team, and now it makes you feel really good when you are picked, when you're somebody that's recognized as being good at something or whatever, right? So it kind of checks that goodness box where it feels good. But now, in the spirit of what you're saying, you say, which I think is the right thing to do, let me really understand the essence of this. Let me really look at this and see how I feel about it. And let's say you do that and you start to realize, like, oh, you know what that is? The source of that goodness is this trauma or this issue I had when I was a kid. Now you have a decision to make. Like, am I okay with that? Do I want to continue getting goodness and valuing, being recognized because it makes me feel good in this way? Or do I want to put that to rest? Do I want to say, I shouldn't be worried about that. That trauma was in my past. I'm beyond that. I don't need that anymore. how do you make that determination? Like what quite literally is the source of the assessment to say this would be better for me than that in that case?